Rowan was a short film that we animated for the contest 48-hour x2 film project in 4 days. It was a bit of a grind, but here's how we did it. Going into a project like this means you have to have efficiencies and workflows in place before you start. I mean, you have to know what's possible and how much you can do in a day in order to set the pace and hit your marks. Where can you spend your energy and where can you not afford to spend your energy? You've got to figure that out up front. Our efficiencies included paring down character rigs and creating backgrounds that could be scaled and shifted so as to be used and reused multiple times. On day 1, we wrote the script. On day 2, we began creating backgrounds, artwork, and had our effects animator begin his tedious work of frame-by-frame effects animation. Actors began recording, and production was underway. Some recorded on their own, others recorded in a session with me, but by the end of day 2, voices had to be in the can and on a project timeline be timed out, because animation needed to start on day 3, if not sooner, so you had to have some character rigs complete. When working on animated projects with other animators, I like to break my projects down into various scenes and collect each of those scenes as separate After Effects files. That way, I can hand a whole scene off to an animator who can begin working while I lay out another scene. For this project, I worked with one other character animator, Josh York. We totally skipped storyboarding as there just wasn't time. I used Duik Bassel and joysticks and sliders in Adobe After Effects for rigging the characters. When rigging multiple characters in a short time span, you have to establish a hierarchy of complexity and a strategy as to how you're going to tackle them all. For example, Rowan, our hero, was the most complex character rig because he's the lead. You just can't cheat with your lead character. But on the next lead character, he could be simpler. I created fewer swappable artwork pieces for his rig. So for instance, this character had fewer mouth positions because he doesn't speak. His head is also cylindrical, which allowed for a wider range in his rigging because I didn't have to worry about how his ears were going to interact with his head turn or how his hair might interact with a head turn. The Battle Dome announcer was the simplest rig created. Originally, he wasn't going to be a robot, but after the actor's performance in the audio booth, which totally changed his character, he required a more refined character design, so what I'd originally intended to be a feral monster turned into a refined robot. But this was actually good for the rig. As a robot, he doesn't need legs, and he doesn't need swappable mouth positions or articulating fingers. I chose to add a metallic shine that moves along with the character's body to give him a layer of complexity so he doesn't feel like a total cheat. And don't forget principles like squash and stretch. These all help sell it. Scene layouts begin with dropping your character into the background. I recommend animating all of your staging and camera moves first. Then you can go back and keyframe everything else. I sent an incomplete animation to our sound mixer, and he began mixing as the effects animation was wrapping up. He did have to guess a little bit at some sound effects where animation wasn't yet complete, but I was able to guide his efforts. In the end, we came away with an animated short that we delivered on time, and we're all pretty happy with. Having a team helps you put several pieces into production into the workflow at the same time. You've just got to overlay production with pre-production with post-production if all you've got is 4 days. So you get one scene finished with the artwork, pass it off, start creating artwork for the next scene. Artwork begins on day 2. It's tricky, but if everyone stays on track and you've got a good track, you can pull it off. And we did. And that's how we made an animated short in 4 days.